Good day, I'm Junior Researcher Adam Southgate, and in today's lecture we'll be covering our first artifact, the Mask of Gweledigaeth Wir. I'd appreciate that all hunters please subscribe, as to not miss any future lectures, and also, if you enjoy the lecture and find it informative, please like the video and click the bell to ensure you do not miss any future announcements. I would also be very happy to hear your thoughts, views and stories of your own interactions with the monsters of the spheres in the comment area of this video. Also, I'm always ready to answer any questions you may have, and please share these lectures with any hunters you feel would benefit from them. So, to begin, as always, we'll start with our general announcements. Firstly, concerning the metal construct that had taken up residence within a scrap heap outside of Caerphilly. The unnamed entity, made entirely of scrap metal, had the ability to continuously add to itself, growing its size and strength with new pieces of metal. Due to the danger this posed, a contract was posted for the elimination of this entity, despite it being one we had no prior knowledge of. The team of hunters who took on the contract, a group of 34 in all, were able to subdue the entity by baiting it into taking on metal pieces that had been trapped with timed explosives. It was not a complete success, as of the 34 hunters, 11 lost their lives. 6 were crushed by the entity itself after entering its field of vision, and the other 5 died due to a badly assembled explosive device. Of the 23 survivors, they immediately began combing through the now burnt scrap that once made up the golem. They were unable to discover any mechanism, mundane or anomalous, to explain its animation. However, they did find etched into a single rusted plate of steel the symbol of the Iron God. This would imply the involvement of the Iron Cult. However, it must be remembered that their group does move from scrap heap to scrap heap, and this emblem may simply have been left behind after an undocumented habitation. Regardless, we are forming a team specifically to investigate the group's ability to create such a construct. Their first goal will be to capture a high-ranking member of the cult for interrogation so we can learn the truth of this matter. If you would like to volunteer for this task force, you may leave a comment expressing your willingness or contact your local Order office. Secondly, the work on the new Order headquarters situated at the site where Gweledigaeth is now located is well underway. The help offered by the Dragonkin has been invaluable due to their enhanced strength and their mostly intact minds. The work is progressing at such a rate that we predict that the project will be completed early next year. We have, however, been posted with a moral quandary. While the Dragonkin have shown an understanding as to why they can no longer rejoin mundane society, they have, along with Gweledigaeth, expressed concerns about their living conditions. Currently, they dwell within the offshoot caves, which, while they were under the sway of religious fervor, they were happy to do. However, now free of the control of the hag and the unknown man, it is no longer sufficient. They have requested that, of the 5 planned wings, we dedicate one of them to them. Their wish is for this wing to contain furnished flats, entertainment facilities, and an indoor garden, with the use of UV lights. On top of this, they also wish to be officially acknowledged as members of the Order of Merlin, with all the rights and protections that entails. They have expressed that their long-term aim, apart from constructing some semblance of a normal life, is to find a purpose within the Order greater than construction or research specimens. Some have even wished to become hunters. This push to become hunters has been led by the few of their number that were before their transformation. The Order can obviously see the benefits of having the Dragonkin as hunters due to their exceptional strength and durability. However, it is a contentious issue. Due to the extreme events that have transpired in the last year, the Order has been forced to adapt, making alliances with both Anthra the She and most recently Gweledigaeth. A year ago, we would have simply fed the Dragonkin to Gweledigaeth without a thought. However, now, things have changed. We are going to hold a poll in the near future to decide what we should do and if we should fulfill the Dragonkin's requests. Artifacts are powerful anomalous objects created by various entities. These creations can do a wide variety of things based on the power of the original creator and the sphere that creator originated from. Some of these artifacts are straightforward, such as Excalibur or Calabolg, objects created to empower the wielder in the literal sense, enhancing speed, strength, and bloodlust. The only downside to these objects is that the human body becomes accustomed to the power they bestow, meaning that, if they are lost, the once wielder will be sent into a crippling withdrawal that never truly subsides. These creations are typically part of an honest bargain between a mortal and an entity, and as such are exceptionally rare. The less straightforward artifacts are far more common. These objects, created as either part of a crooked Fey deal, a necromancer's experimentation, or as simple cast-offs by Abrahamic or Eldritch beings, well, yes, may offer some benefit, will always have some destructive downside. As an example, the Sirad Maru is a bracelet created by a Path of Death necromancer. We are unsure as to what the necromancer was attempting to achieve with the creation of this object, however, its effects are both astounding and horrifying. Once worn by an individual, they will find that they can both see and command the benign spirits that surround us. However, at the same time, their heart stops. The user will most likely not even notice this, as their body continues as if nothing is wrong. However, as time passes, they will become fully aware, as their flesh slowly rots away and falls from their bones. This continues until its inevitable conclusion, their conscious mind trapped within a slowly degrading skull, with no ability to communicate or move, bar their eyes, which is the only part of them spared from this degradation. In the 1970s, a team of Order hunters conducted a raid upon one of the many eldritch cults that infest the world. The operation was standard fare. The cult was worshipping a slither entity, literally an infinitely small fragment of an eldritch being. The only thing of note was a large group of people within the cult who were locked within a paralyzed state. After the cult's destruction, any books and objects were catalogued and archived away for future study. In 1984, a researcher was slowly making their way through an examination of these objects when they found that one did not appear to fit with the others, a wooden mask, clearly of Fey origin. According to the notes made from the time of the raid, the mask was placed atop a pedestal in front of the being the cult was worshipping, implying that it held some significance to the cultists. Why an eldritch cult would have any interest in such an item was beyond the researcher. However, they persevered and began testing the object. Using a captured follower of the Lady of Bones and Roses as a guinea pig, the researcher had them place the mask onto their head and asked them to relay any noticeable effects. The test subject reported no change, and after a long battery of tests, still no effect could be determined. The researcher, frustrated, attempted to see if the mask had any effect on the Fae themselves. He had the test subject taken to view a captured cuckoo fairy to see if the mask would give the user some power over the Fae. However, the test subject's reaction to the fairy, which to everyone else simply looked like a young boy, was extreme. As it turns out, the mask gives the user the ability to see through any visual illusion, showing the true form of the being that is being viewed. This ability expands well past the point of glamours, however, as it also shows the full form of both eldritch and Abrahamic entities. This explains the paralyzed individuals within the cult. The mask was used as a religious tool to allow the cult members to view the true form of their god. The problem, at least from any rational mind's perspective, is that the true form of an eldritch being is basically infinite. Being exposed to this and the reality of how small we truly are destroys the human mind. Even with an MMB, there would be no protection, as it would become quickly overloaded by the effect. The person viewing the being will suffer from NLS, or nightmarish locked-in syndrome. This is a condition where the person loses all ability to move their body but remains awake, while at the same time being constantly confronted with the same reality that was revealed to them after witnessing the entity. they'll want to rip out their own eyes and burst their own ears, but will be unable to do so, forced to lay there, unable to escape their fate. We only know of this due to another artifact that allows the connection between two people that was used on one of the victims before we knew what we were dealing with. The person using the device quickly self-destructed, but only after they put the person they were connected to out of their misery. Frustratingly, much of this knowledge could have been gained far earlier, as the cult had conducted their own extensive research on the mask. However, their recorded notes and findings were all written in an unknown cipher that took some time to decode. But back to the topic at hand. We have had some joy in tracking the object's origin to the 10th century, following an obscure folktale of an alchemist who wished to see things as they truly were. In the tale, the man makes a deal with a witch who presents him with a wooden mask. The tale ends with the alchemist cutting out his own eyes after coming to the conclusion that a life lived in blindness is a far happier one than one where all is shown. The tale is most likely an exaggeration of the true events, however it does give us a rough idea of the mask's origins. There is one quirk of the mask that has yet to be mentioned, that of the hollow faces. Some mundane people, when looked at with the mask, will have their features distorted in an uncomfortable way. The eyes, nose, mouth, and head shape will all look different from how the person actually looks, and after a great amount of research, no reason for this could be found. Where these facial features should be is only hollows, filled with a deep darkness that has been expressed to cause a strong sense of foreboding in the viewer. This is not a random effect either, as the same people will always be distorted when looked at through the mask, no matter who is wearing it. Poring through the cult's notes, they also recorded this phenomenon. However, they recorded that around 20% of people were affected, whereas we recorded it to be around 30%, but that probably speaks more to the scientific methodology of cultists than anything else. The cultists believed that those who showed this abnormality were those rejected by their eldritch god, and as such they possessed no soul, literally being hollow people, which is where the name derived from. We believe that this visual quirk of the mask was a way for the original Fae creator to mess with the one they created it for. The jokes of Fae are often impenetrable. Even with this visual abnormality, the mask is of unbelievable value, as the ability to see through a Fae's glamour would be treasured by any anti-incursion organization. Entities such as the Cuckoo Fairy that hides among the general population would be simple to root out with a simple visual scan of a crowd of people. It also offers immense opportunity for research, as the ability to see the true form of a thing that hides itself as standard could allow us to discover some kind of weakness. Unfortunately, in the early 1990s, a raid was conducted upon the Order office containing the mask. The group responsible were looking to free captured members, however, they stole a large number of objects and equipment at the same time, the mask included. After the raid, the group responsible were expunged. However, the mask and many other artifacts were not recovered. We believe the group spread them out to hidden caches before their destruction, where they have been slowly discovered by the general population. We have managed to recover some of these lost artifacts, but not all. The last sighting of the mask was in the town of Rumney, where it was being used by a mad individual who was attempting to convince people that society had been infiltrated by aliens. A team was sent to apprehend the man, however, he had apparently hidden the mask before our team's arrival. The recovery of this artifact, as well as the many others that were lost, is a high priority. However, it is made difficult by the fact that those who find these realize their power, and as such don't want them taken away. This is even true of the artifacts that cause horrific effects on the user. They become obsessed with the item and paranoid of any who may want them. When one is located in the possession of a civilian, all attempts must be made to firstly not tip off your approach, but also ensure no route of escape. On top of this, many of the artifacts can make the user extremely dangerous. As such, research should always be conducted on the artifact you're going after before the confrontation. As for the recovery, different artifacts require different conditions to activate their effects. However, a good rule of thumb is to avoid physical contact with the object, as typically this is required. Some artifacts possess their own will, and as such have the ability to psychologically tempt individuals to use them. In these cases, an MMB can be used to nullify these effects. However, some have such a draw that even with an MMB, a great deal of willpower will be needed. This is why it is always best practice to take on such contracts as part of a team, as the objects can only draw one individual at a time, giving your team the ability to assist you in resisting its draw. Artifacts are a good example of the secondary effects entities can have on our world. While yes, some do possess a rudimentary will, it goes no further than wanting to be used. The objects have no other desires beyond that. And yet, these creations cause untold suffering and devastation to any unlucky enough to discover them. It's only due to our knowledge and experience that a group like the Order is able to make use of such creations for the good of humanity. But on the other side of that are groups that wish humanity ill, and these objects give them the ability to do so. But that will be all for today. With Arthur's might and Merlin's wisdom, thank you.